Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Dubai Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Tahir Majithia. This is the first episode of 2023, so wish you a very happy new year. And in today's episode, I have a very special guest. I have the managing director of Guestready, a holiday home company, Reem Khatib, joining me on the show to discuss all things about how Airbnb works, how holiday rentals work in Dubai. But before we go ahead with the show, guys, you know what you have to do. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Give us your likes, leave your comments, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please do give us a 5-star rating and review. This really helps us getting discovered. And Spotify listeners, please follow. And now let's cue the music. Hi Reem, welcome to the show.
Hey Tahir, thank you for having me on the show.
Most welcome. So Reem, tell us more about yourself. What's your story? How you've been in Dubai, and you're the managing director for Guestready. So what exactly does Guestready do?
So I'll start with Guestready. We're a vacation rental company that help property owners and operators manage properties on behalf of landlords in Dubai. And Guestready itself was founded in 2016 in Europe, and it's one of the leading property management companies in Europe. And we are now in more than 20 countries worldwide.
Wow.
And we're regionally growing also in the UAE and in Saudi.
Oh, wow. That's great. So the Guestready is operating in 20 countries, is it?
For now, yes, we're operating in 20 countries.
Okay. And which are your biggest markets?
The biggest markets, Dubai is one of our biggest markets, actually. It's in the top 3.
Great.
We're also in France and in the UK and Portugal. These are our top, I would say these are the top 4 markets. But because we also white label our service and offer our software, we offer it to other companies in countries where we don't necessarily operate.
Okay.
And that's why we have a really huge outreach.
Okay, that's great. So, Reem, tell us, how does Airbnb or holiday rental work in Dubai?
So what we do on behalf of these operators and property owners, we take care of everything, including check-in, check-out of guests, hosting these guests, making sure that we price the property correctly when we host these guests. We do the cleaning, the maintenance, the renovation, everything that's needed to make the property ready. And also, other than the fact that we make it more efficient and effective for these property owners, we also make sure to have the best service to our customers, which are the guests that are coming here and paying a lot of money to stay in these properties and have the best vacation possible, or if they're here for work, then the best work experience.
Great. And how are you seeing the trend in the Dubai market right now in terms of demand for holiday homes?
So in Dubai, holiday rentals are regulated by the Department of Economy and Tourism. What this means for us is that there's a certain property standard that's required, and we're seeing the trend, going upwards. A lot of interest from investors to invest in holiday homes. Also, a lot of interest from digital nomads that want to come to Dubai and stay in Dubai for long periods of time.
Right.
There's a lot of competition also in the market. There's a lot of newcomers. But because of this regulation, we make sure that there's a certain standard that's being met. And the way it happens is we need to submit some documents to the Department of Economy. And along with these documents, you also have to show them that you're paying certain bills, and then they will assign a unit permit for your property.
Okay.
And that means that the property could be managed by a holiday home, such as our company.
Right.
And we host these guests using this license.
Okay, but does the landlord need to take this license, or that's your responsibility as an operator?
So you can get this license as a landlord if you want to be an individual homeowner that has an individual license.
Okay.
It would be more expensive. However, if you do it through an operator, then it won't be as expensive, and we do everything for the landlord. There's a lot of other regulations that are required. Like, for example, furnishing the property in a certain standard.
Right.
It's not just to get the license, but in order to get the license, there's a huge checklist
Okay.
that you need to take care of.
Great. So when a landlord wants to put a property on holiday rental or Airbnb and wants to give a company like yours, what exactly does the landlord need to do?
So they need to submit some documents to us,
Right.
and then we will take care of it. I mean, what we do on their behalf, I could start with the most fun thing
Yes.
that we do, which is we style and renovate the property.
Okay.
So I usually like to start with that one because I get everyone's attention. Everyone's like, okay, what does the portfolio look like?
Right.
And that's something that we care about because we want our properties to stand out in the
Right.
market. There's more than 23,000 holiday homes.
Wow.
And we need to make sure that if we're managing your property, it doesn't get lost in this pool of holiday homes. So yeah, we style it, we renovate it, of course at a cost where it still needs to make enough yield for the holiday home owner. The second thing we do is we inspect it, we do the maintenance and the cleaning of the property.
Right.
And then we do the check-in, check-out of the guests. We also, a big part of what we do is marketing and promotion. So we make sure that the properties are promoted on either Airbnb, Booking.com, all these international platforms, or we also, list them on our social media accounts and on our website.
Okay.
So that would be, also through like marketing emails. We have a good amount of repeat clients that come back and stay with Guestready.
Right.
So we make sure to always promote clients across cities and across properties as well.
Okay, that's great. So, Reem, tell me something. When a client gives you a property, right, say you're going to be furnishing it, the cost is obviously of the landlord, right? Or do you spend on that? That the landlord spends?
The landlord has
Okay,
spent.
so once he's given the property, once the landlord's furnished the property and given to a holiday operator like you, what other cost does the landlord have to bear? Does he pay the bills, or what are the other costs which the landlord will pay?
Yeah, so the landlord is still expected to pay the bills of the
Right.
property, and it's all added in the revenue estimate that we have to produce to
Right.
the owner. We take it all into account. The landlord has to pay for the bills, pay for an insurance that's required also by the Department of Economy here.
Right.
This insurance will protect guests from third-party liabilities. Also, if there's any other issues that happen in the apartment, like if, a guest throws a party, we need to also make sure that the landlord is protected. So there's another insurance that we could also apply for, but that's optional.
Right.
To protect this landlord. Besides that, there's an onboarding fee usually, and this onboarding fee is not totally like it's a cost that's borne by the landlord, but also we pay for some of it, which is like linen and toiletries,
Right.
welcome basket, photography, and we do charge a very small amount for that, but we also bear some of that cost.
Got it. And you mentioned earlier there are 23,000 units. So this is just in Dubai, or you're talking about UAE?
Dubai.
Just Dubai. There are 23,000 holiday homes running in Dubai.
Yes, and it's more than doubled in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
So it used to be pre-COVID, it was around 11,000
Okay.
Airbnb properties. And then during COVID, we lost about 20% of these properties because a lot of these properties were also on master lease. So
Right.
a lot of these holiday homeowners thought, okay, I'd rather just not lease these properties and give them to holiday homes anymore. And then during COVID, we started seeing it spike, especially when Expo was about to start.
Right.
Expo helped a lot actually in increasing, investor confidence in the
Right.
market, and we started seeing a lot of these investors come back and invest in real estate, and then also invest in short-term rentals.
Right.
And then over this past year, we've seen it double in size.
Wow.
And now we're at 23,000. But then there's also a lot of competition,
Right.
which is fun because it increases, the standards and
Yes.
the level of service that we have to provide.
True. So that's basically more than 100% jump in just 1 year in the number of holiday homes coming into the Dubai market.
Yeah.
And you're still seeing the demand growing?
Yes, we are.
Wow.
We're still seeing a lot of more supply coming
Yes.
in. We're still growing. We've also grown more than double in this
Wow.
past year.
That's great.
But the only difference for us is it's made us more selective, because for us, we do want to be a large holiday home company and we want to scale, but we don't want to do it if we're going to lose out on the quality of the properties.
Right.
So they really come hand in hand, and that's one thing that we've always cared about when growing the portfolio. We want to make sure that when we have a homeowner, he really becomes one of the owners of Guestready, where his house now, like, we have to take care of this house, and we don't want to lose this house and then gain 2 other properties, and then in a few months we also lose these other properties.
True.
It's all about long-term investment on both sides.
No, that's great. That's great. Real estate in general is always about the long-term investing, and that's it. I've noticed you've been focusing a lot on the style of the house, the quality, right? So tell us how much of an impact does that do on a return for a landlord, for example, because I've seen like some landlords always have this thing that why do I need to spend so much, and I can do it cheaper. But from what I've been speaking to you right now, I see that your focus and emphasis is a lot on the style of the apartment and the design.
Of course, the style is important, and but it's not just about the style. It's about, like, okay, if you have a property, it depends on the property that you own. If your property is, for example, a more budget-friendly property in JVC,
Right.
we will not tell you to invest too much in the style.
Right.
It's about also being practical and making sure your property stands out in JVC. But for your property to stand out in JVC, you don't need to do that much, because there isn't that much supply in that area.
Right.
The way we think about it is, the more value you can invest, the more investment that you can put in to add value will help you determine how much is that amount. We
Right.
know that there's a certain amount that if you go over that amount, you might not actually be getting any more value in return.
Got it.
So if you have like a villa at the Palm, we will ask you to furnish it in a luxurious way, because we
Got
do
it.
know that you're going to get a lot in return.
Right.
But if you have a property in JVC or a property in Marina, but it's maybe in a building that's not a new building,
Right.
we know who's going to be staying in your property. It's not going to be someone that's going to be spending a lot of money.
Got it.
So the money that you invest is not going to go a long way. So we will advise you on how much we think is the right amount to invest. And when I talk about style, it doesn't mean that you have to spend a lot of money. We've been doing this for 6 years now.
Wow.
I've been doing it for 2 years before that. And when I start with my own property, I didn't invest that much, and my property still stands out. And it's just because of certain details that you can add in the property. It doesn't need to mean that the property is like, decked in like golden accessories,
Right.
or velvet couches and stuff. But it's just that it stands out in a way where people feel like it's a homey yet different experience,
Right.
that unique experience that people are looking for.
Yeah, it's all about the experience when the guest
Yeah.
is coming in, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Now, tell me, you've mentioned a very nice point that, for example, you have a property in JVC, you don't really need to spend much, but say if the property is on the Palm or Marina or downtown, someday you'll spend more. What are the trends you're seeing? Like, which are the most, okay, let me put it this way. Which are the 5 most popular areas for Airbnb or holiday rental in Dubai?
So we're currently located in mainly the prime locations,
Right.
but it's spread out because Dubai has so many different pockets of
True.
different areas where tourists would like to come and check out, and there's always something new.
Right.
The top 5 ones, I would say, Blue Waters is a top one.
Yeah.
Dubai downtown is always where we focus on,
Right.
because it's stable and it's just proven to be an area where you find tourists that want to come in, but then also business travelers want to stay there.
Yes.
Because of the proximity to the trade center or
True.
to Dubai Mall.
Dubai Mall, Burj Khalifa.
And yeah, there's lots of people that
Yes.
will come here for shopping reasons as well.
True.
There's then the Dubai Marina
Yes.
area, which is close to the beach, and it's one of the older areas, but people still like it. JLT, surprisingly, is also very good. It's
Okay.
residential, but the reason why it does well is because of the return on investment.
Okay.
So It's maybe not, an area where people would first think, okay, I want to go to Dubai, and as a tourist, I want to check it out, and DLT wouldn't come to mind.
Right.
But it's for investment purposes, it does really well.
Great. That's good to know.
And then the last one is the IFC, and
Wow.
the IFC is close to downtown.
Yeah.
But also it does attract a lot of digital nomads because it's so close to the financial center, and also it's close to Dubai Mall and downtown. So yeah, these are top 5 for us.
That's good to know. So how many properties is Guest Ready managing today?
In Dubai alone,
Yes.
it's around 400 properties.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the 400 properties which you're managing in just Dubai. And what's your
Dubai.
target for the coming year?
Well, we always say we have a road to 10K
Okay.
at the company, and
Great.
in Dubai it's a road to 1K. But our focus is never just on increasing the size of the portfolio.
Okay.
Again, it's more about making sure that we're satisfying our customers, and also our when I say the customer, it's the guest,
Right.
and then also it's the homeowner, and making sure that they're happy with the level of service that we're providing.
Okay. Reem, now, one thing I want to ask you is from a landlord's perspective, right? Say if I'm a landlord, I give my property to Guest Ready to manage. How does the landlord get paid? Because in this, there's no fixed rent, right? He's going to get the revenue. So how does the landlord get paid when a holiday rental company like yours is managing the property?
So yeah, this is one of the advantages actually of working with a holiday homeowner, because it's a more consistent way of paying landlords. There's no risk involved. We pay the landlord every month. So
Okay.
at the very beginning of the month, the first 5 days, the landlord gets a payout. So yeah, one of the benefits is this increase in income compared to long term, not just in the way we pay, but also the landlord will be getting paid more income depending on the property that they're leasing.
Okay. So every month they get paid. But then how does the landlord keep a track on how many nights his property was occupied? Is there a system that he comes to know? How does it work?
Yeah, we're fully transparent. There's a dashboard.
Okay.
So the landlord gets a notification when there's a booking that's done.
Okay.
The landlord also knows if there's a cancellation.
Okay.
The landlord could also, the second advantage would be for them the flexibility. So if they would feel like they want to come in and stay in the property, they can book it on their own.
Okay.
They also have a dedicated account manager that can book it on their behalf.
Right.
But whenever they want, they could just, check out the calendar, book the property,
Great.
stay in the property.
So basically every booking which is there coming on a property, the landlord will come to know that my property is booked for so-and-so dates.
Yes.
Wow, that's great. And he also has the flexibility of using it himself.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
great.
And we
That's
don't put a limit on the number of days also.
Okay, so someone wants to come and stay 1 month in his own property, he can,
Yeah.
and the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one thing which gives a lot of flexibility to the owners to actually, use the property as well, especially if they're overseas.
Yeah, we do see a lot of landlords coming back and using the property. Of course, we advise the landlord because, when a landlord comes to us and says, "This is what I want from you. I want more income compared to long term," then they want to use the property whenever they want. We advise them. We tell them, okay, based on the availability of the calendar, this is how much we expect you to make. So if a landlord wants to come in, for example, in the high season when the rates are really high, we would advise them strongly to maybe stay in the low season and just leave the high season for tourists.
Right. So typically, what are the high seasons for tourists in Dubai?
The high season, it's usually between September, I would say it starts, until April, or until in previous years, Ramadan used to affect the high season,
Yes.
but we're seeing a lot of tourists still come in during Ramadan and stay here for months.
Right. Great. So you would say September to April is a high season.
Yeah, that's when the weather is really nice. But for us, our occupancy overall is about 80 to 85%.
Wow.
So when I say high season, it just means the rates are higher. But the occupancy actually during low season is just as high as high season.
Okay.
So
So
the
when you say a
occupancy-
low season, it's basically that the property is still going to be occupied, but it's going to pay you less in those low season and more in the high season.
Yeah, because it's more short-term rental
Right.
during the high season, and it's more mid-term rental during the low season. And by mid-term rental, I mean a digital nomad that wants to stay for like a few weeks, a few months.
Right.
Usually we have people that would come in for 3 to 4 months at a time, and then you know who's staying in the property,
Right.
and you know how much income you're going to be receiving,
Right.
and it's just better than keeping the property empty.
Okay. I see you use the term digital nomads quite a lot right now. Are you seeing a lot of digital nomads coming to Dubai for short term and coming and living here?
Yeah, this has been a trend that's been happening since COVID.
Okay.
We saw a lot of digital nomads come in, and also just to talk about this, the Department of Economy and Tourism
Yes.
just announced with Airbnb that they have their own hub where you can go on the Airbnb website and
Okay.
you'll see certain workspaces that are especially for digital nomads. So
Wow.
they have a link on Airbnb that's only for remote, like people that want to work in
Remotely.
remote-friendly workspaces.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's definitely a trend.
Yeah.
In Dubai, like and I think it's been happening for a few years now.
Okay.
But with the COVID, it's accelerated a lot.
Is there any specific country or a specific region you're seeing these digital nomads coming, or is it overall?
It's really from everywhere. From Europe, we saw a lot of people come in.
Okay.
From France, I'm not sure if it's because we are a European company that like we started in Europe, and
Yes.
and all these guests are coming from Europe because of the guests that we've hosted there. But there's a lot of European and German, French, American. A lot of Russians, obviously,
Yes.
Ukrainians. So yeah, it's a lot of people from that region.
Okay, that's great. Noreen, tell me something. How did you get into this business? Like, what's your story? How
So
long have you been in Dubai, and what's
I was born here.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I was born here. Like not so long ago, but I then moved to Qatar, and I came here like 9 years ago.
Okay.
And I was looking for something to do, and as a side hustle, I was looking for, initially it just started, with me sitting on my balcony,
Yeah.
looking for a way, like something to invest in, and then I looked at real estate in Dubai, and I saw that there's no Airbnbs, and they had just announced, I think, that they're going to regulate the short-term rental business here.
Yes.
So I was like, wow, that's great. I mean, real estate is something that I don't know much about. I had to educate myself on it. But I do know that I love Airbnbs, and that's how I like to travel.
Right.
So I thought, okay, it would be a crazy idea. I'll invest in a property and turn it into my own Airbnb and host people and give them that great experience, because
Yes.
it's all about the experience, as
Yes,
you said,
absolutely.
right? And that's why I choose Airbnb, because although sometimes it's not very consistent,
Yeah.
depending on where you book, it's always an experience.
Yes.
And for me, I wanted to give people the best experience, so I did it. I invested in a property in DIFC,
okay?
and it was, I hosted more than 100 people before Guestready.
Wow.
And I had a guest rating of 4.99
Wow.
for more than 100 guests. And then I start getting calls from homeowners and from like different, I think the Department of the Economy of Tourism also featured me back then. And the reason why is because I really cared about every single guest that stayed in the property. And I thought, okay, this is not as difficult as I thought. Like, if you have a property that's nice and you show people that you really care about their stay, people will leave you a 5-star.
True.
And it was really nice getting to know, the people that stay in the property, and there's a lot of different guests that come into Dubai.
Yes.
So then I wanted more properties, and I started convincing some family and friends to
Yes.
invest in properties, and I helped them back then purchase the property that I thought would generate the highest yield.
True.
So I went from 1 property to 5 properties, and then I found out about Guestready.
Okay.
And they were here, and I was like, okay, well, It's a European company, it's an international company, and they were looking at launching in Dubai. And then it started from there. And for us, the most important thing was always making sure that we have the best interest of the guest that's staying with us. And we've grown in the past 5 years from that one property to now almost 400 properties.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. That's great. That's really commendable, from one property to 400 properties in the last 5 years. That's really nice. That really says that you've been taking really great care of your guests in the properties they're staying.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that we're always willing to listen to what the guest has to say as well.
Right.
We're reading their feedback. We're asking them to leave us feedback because some guests don't. The day after the guest checks in, we check in on them just to make sure that the check-in was smooth and everything is okay.
Right.
So that's something that's very important to us.
So tell me, Reem, what are the main reasons for a guest to choose an Airbnb over a hotel? I know one thing is, sometimes cost-wise it could be a difference, but leaving the cost apart, what is the main reason for guests to choose, a Airbnb over a hotel?
So the first reason I would say is more space. They get a lot more space, and a lot of guests want to travel with their families.
Yes.
And what they could get for an apartment would be way more in terms of value than if they were to book a few rooms in a hotel. So also there's that common area where they can sit together. There's a kitchen, so they could use a coffee machine in the kitchen. That's not something that you always find at a hotel. There's more home-like amenities provided in a house that you could not find in a hotel. There's also that local experience. You feel like you're kind of living like a local or traveling like a local in Dubai, and that was always our tagline as well here. We want to give people that local experience.
Nice. Tell me, what type of properties work the most if, as a landlord, someone wants to buy a property? Is there a trend that a one-bedroom apartment gives me a better revenue, or a two-bedroom? What's the most in-demand kind of property?
So naturally, investors buy larger studios and one bedrooms because of their return on investment and also the risk associated with having a property that's smaller in terms of service charges. You're not paying as much as if it's a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. However, when it comes to the guests that are staying in the properties, we are seeing a lot of demand for the larger units, as I said, because a lot of these guests want to come in with either groups friends or families. So we're seeing a lot of these guests paying a lot to stay in the larger units. And there is a lot of demand for 3-bedrooms, 4-bedrooms, and there isn't that much supply. Because, there's a lot of real estate investors, and these real estate investors have invested in studios and one beds. And the market now is saturated with these studios and one beds. But there isn't that many 3 beds and 4 beds and villas that are in the market. So you will see that they're always in demand because of this supply.
Demand.
Yeah.
That's great to know. That's great to know. So Reem, one question to you is, why would, landlords prefer giving Guestready their property over their competitors? What's the main USP or the main reason for a landlord or an investor to let Guestready manage the property?
So Guestready has a strong reputation for being innovative in the vacation rental business. We have produced our own technology. We have our own software that we use when managing our guests. And that's something that we've built over the past 6 years. There's a lot of other vacation rentals that don't have that level of customized service or they haven't invested to go that extra mile. So we're also, I would say, an international brand with a high number of guests that have given us properties in Europe and also in the region, and also guests that stay with us in Europe and then come back and stay with us in the region. So, there's a lot of these repeat clients that keep coming in.
Right.
And
there's a brand loyalty which starts building.
Yes.
Then.
Yeah, I would say that because of that excellent customer service that we're always, like for us, it's all about that repeat client. We want these clients that come, that stay with us and can recommend us to their friends and family, and that's really how we want to grow. We want to make sure that we maintain that brand loyalty.
That's great. That's great. So Reem, tell me, what exactly are the benefits a landlord gets if he's doing holiday rental, Airbnb with your company? What are the main benefits what a landlord would get?
So the first benefit that we always see that landlords ask for, and that's why they come to us, is an increase in income. Right. We usually evaluate the property, so not any property will do better short term compared to long term, right, or even if they want to sell the property. What we do is we evaluate it. And there's a variety of factors. There's the location, the building itself, the property, and there's the guests that we think will be staying in these properties, the amount of income that this landlord will make.
Right.
The second reason would be the flexibility that the landlord gets. So that flexibility of staying in the property whenever they want, or us paying them whenever they also want, like on a monthly basis, and not missing a payment, no bounce checks or any of that. Also the flexibility of wanting to sell the property if they need to. So maybe the landlord has maybe just 1 year to rent the property, and after 1 year they want to sell the property.
Right.
They don't want to have someone locked in for a long time.
Yes,
so we can
that's like a big advantage, because otherwise if you have a long-term tenant, it takes 1 year to vacate the tenant if you have to sell the property.
Exactly. And the third one, which is quite surprising, but we're seeing a trend there as well. A lot of landlords want to give us the property because they know that once they furnish the property,
yes,
then the property will appreciate in value.
Yes.
So they know that when we invest in the property, we add the furniture, we make it look a certain way.
Yeah.
They kind of have like a showroom, right?
True.
And then when clients come in and they look at the property, and we have no problem helping the landlord
yes,
do that. Like we will also schedule viewings and with agents.
Yeah, it makes it much easier for the property to sell.
Yeah, exactly.
And also the property is always clean and maintained that way.
Yeah, it's always maintained.
Yes.
It's also it's a turnkey solution for them. They
yes,
can. There's other investors that want this property maybe.
Yes.
So if these investors come in and they see this property is doing well, we could go from landlord to landlord. And it's happened a lot with us, where one landlord wants to sell and has recommended Guestready to another landlord, and then now this landlord's with us. We also have partnerships in place, like we work with a company called Stake, and what they do is they have a crowdfunding platform that they have investors that are willing to invest in a property, and we can help them. Like by working with them, we help these investors invest in this property, and we tell them how much this property makes in a year, what kind of return on investment to expect from this property, because we've been operating on it for a few months or a year, so they know what to expect. And we have that forecast for them. So yeah, there's a number of reasons why.
No, that's true. Like especially the flexibility to sell the property. That's I feel like one of the main benefits, because once you have a long-term tenant, it gets difficult to get a viewing. When sometimes you take a client to view the property, it's
I can tell you this really depends on the property.
Just an average, like just say if it's a property in downtown, and if just to get
well, if it's a property in downtown and it's a 1-bedroom, let's say. And it's in a nice building, not in an old building. Because it also does depend on the building, right?
Yes, true.
So what we do is we ask we evaluate the property. If we feel like this is going to be a budget-friendly property, then we will source the furniture from stores that are a bit more budget-friendly.
Budget-friendly stores.
And we don't do it the same way that other.
You would do a high-end property.
Yeah, like we have partnerships with these these furniture companies, and we could get them a discount on all the furniture. And we just add a 10% markup. So it will be the cost price plus 10% markup. So it really does depend on, as I said, like the property itself. It's not, because one property could cost us 20,000 if it's like budget friendly, and we know that daily rate on that property is going to be low. But then if it's like a 1-bedroom luxury property in downtown connected to Dubai Mall in one of the newest buildings, maybe downtown views,
Right.
then we would need to, invest in that property. And we know that if you, for example, invested 50,000, you're going to make that back.
Yes.
And yeah, it's the value there is definitely way more than like an older building.
And when you evaluate the property and the rental return, on an average, someone putting a property on a long-term rent versus giving a company like yours on holiday rental, how much % more revenue do they make on an average as compared to a long-term rent?
Yeah, so I mean, with short-term rentals, the returns are almost always more than long-term rental, but it does vary property to property. So on a property level, I can tell you there are different factors involved. There's the furnishing that goes in, and then also there's the building itself. There's so many buildings in Dubai that you could see there's like some wear and tear. The experience going in, even through building management, might not be the same. So yeah, it does vary depending on the location, on all these different factors.
But still, on an average, what would be like,
So we say usually it's 2% more.
Okay. Yeah. So if a landlord's making, say, for example, 8%, he would make 10%.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's basically 25% more rent than the normal rent.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what we aim for.
Right.
That's I mean, sometimes it's more.
Yes.
But if it's not that 2%, then we do advise and we let the landlord know, okay, if you really want increased income and you're not interested in all the other benefits that you get from giving your company to giving your property to a professional company, then we also advise the landlord that instead of 2%, maybe your property can earn 1%. We can tell you how it can earn 2%, but the property, the way it is right now, could maybe just earn 1%. So like we will also help the landlord find out how they can increase the value of the property and where to market it, or like how to furnish it in a way where it's going to generate that return.
Great. Yeah, and also even if it is giving the same return, it still gives you that flexibility if you want to sell the property and exit, or you want to use it yourself, because that you don't get in a long-term tenant.
Exactly,
so it's still a benefit and a win-win situation for the landlord.
Yeah, of course. I mean, my property is still with Guestready, and I would I know that currently, the long-term market and the short-term market both are doing really well.
Yes.
But for me, having that flexibility of okay, if I want to sell my property whenever I want, I don't stay in my property, but if I want to sell it, then I have that choice. And I hear these nightmares about, sometimes you want to sell the property, but you can't. You have a long-term guest. And also, you have a good relationship with this long-term tenant and you don't want to kick them out necessarily.
True.
Or you want to kick them out because they're not paying on time. So there's so many different reasons why, that flexibility is just so important.
Right. So Reem, now one question. Where do you live in Dubai and why did you choose that area?
So I live in Dubai Hills.
Okay, that's great.
It's a nice community.
Yes.
It's a compound in Dubai, and I have 2 kids.
Oh, nice,
so it's a great community for kids.
Great.
It's new, and now we're seeing a lot of tourists actually staying in that area.
Yes.
I mean, when we first moved there 2 years ago, it was mainly residential, and I remember getting some inquiries where people were like, okay, do you think Dubai Hills would be a good destination for short-term rentals? And we have about 10% of our portfolio is probably in Dubai Hills now.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a big chunk of the portfolio that's there, and it's always fully occupied. It's definitely...
What, out of curiosity, what would be the reason for a short-term renter, go and rent an apartment in, say, like a Dubai Hills or JVC, which is not a tourist area? What draws the public over there towards, holiday rental? What's the reason?
So it's a bit more remote. I mean, not everybody wants to stay in in the main parts of the city, like Dubai Marina or downtown.
Yeah.
Some people want that privacy. They want to feel like, okay, when I go to work, I'm in the city, but then I want to go home and I want to stay somewhere a bit more green. And there's beautiful parks in Dubai.
Yeah, that's true. Dubai is a great community.
And the golf course
it's one of the nicest communities of Dubai today.
I mean, now I'm like advertising Dubai Hills, but it's just, there's a lot of advantages of staying there. It's a completely different experience again, and it's just another pocket that tourists would like to discover. And a lot of tourists, once they stay there, they discover, okay, it's a very nice area. There's also lots of tourists that want to stay there because they have family that lives nearby.
Okay.
So if my sister, for example, would come and visit me, I can put her in a property in Dubai Hills that we manage.
And are you seeing that trend growing, that people want to stay where their relatives or friends or family are staying?
Yes, I think there's a lot of interest from tourists and from people all around the world that want to come and see Dubai. Maybe they want to come and work here, but they want to stay for a short period of time until that happens. So they want to be close to family and they want to just test it out and see how it is, and they want to stay somewhere a bit more residential. There's also a lot of people that want to move to Dubai Hills, but they're not sure, so they try it out.
So it's like testing it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you seeing a lot of people doing that?
Yeah, there's a few people that do. There's people also that want to renovate their properties and they stay in a property that's nearby until their property is
But
renovated.
actually, that's a great way. If you're not sure on which community to live in, you could just go take an Airbnb, live for a week, 10 days, and then take a decision.
That's true. It's funny because this reminds me of when I first moved to Dubai, and I always thought Dubai downtown is going to be the best area to stay in. And that's where I stayed in the beginning, and I loved it. And then later I moved to Jumeirah, and I loved Jumeirah. And I was like, oh my God, I can never leave this. Like, this is a great area. It's got everything I want. And then I moved to Dubai Hills, and I was like, and now I'm like, okay, this is the best area. But everywhere in Dubai is different, and just depends on your needs.
Exactly.
So I definitely advise people to do that before, if they want to buy a house or like a residence.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. It's the best way. You go take an Airbnb, live, see how you like that space, the area, and then take a decision. No, that's great. Okay, great. I think, Reem, that was a really good conversation. You've given a lot of information and a lot of value to people listening or watching this, especially investors or property owners who want to do holiday rentals. Now, a quick question. What if, a property investor or a landlord wants to approach Guestready? How do they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with us on Guestready.com. They can request for a revenue estimate on the website.
Right.
There's also a number and an email address that they could
Perfect. So I'm going to leave the details in the show description. And thanks a lot, Reem, for joining us on the show. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Tahir, for your time.
Thank you so much. So guys, that was Reem Khatib from Guestready, a great holiday home company based here in Dubai. If you want to get in touch with them, I'm going to leave their contact details in the show description below. And if you want to reach out to me, you know how to do that, tahir@trustedhomesdubai.com, or follow me on any of my social media handles @Tahir Majithia. And I'll be back with more episodes soon.